The immigration checkpoint looms ahead. You've just completed a long international flight. Your back aches and your phone battery is nearly dead. Then you see it, that measured gaze from the border control officer as they gesture you forward. Their expression reveals nothing, but their eyes seem to read everything. What unfolds in the next few minutes will determine whether you smoothly exit the terminal or find yourself escorted to a windowless room for extended questioning. This scenario terrifies countless travelers, yet surprisingly few understand that immigration inquiries follow a deliberate pattern. These questions aren't asked randomly. They're components of a carefully designed evaluation system that begins assessing you the moment you approach the desk. Today, you'll discover the 10 critical immigration questions that officers worldwide use to silently evaluate your credibility, and most crucially, the exact techniques to respond with unwavering confidence while avoiding any suspicious behavior. Whether your destination is the United States, Canada, the United Kingdom, or Australia, these same fundamental principles govern every interaction. Provide excessive information, and you risk sounding rehearsed or suspicious. Offer too little detail, and they'll probe deeper into your background. However, once you grasp the reasoning behind each inquiry, the entire process becomes transparent, allowing you to navigate immigration control as if you have memorized the playbook. But here's what I'll reveal near the end that most travelers never realize. There's one specific document-related mistake that can instantly trigger additional screening, even when everything else goes perfectly. Let's examine the first question, the one that establishes the entire tone of your encounter. Here's what catches most people off guard about this opening request. The simple phrase, "May I see your passport?" represents far more than a standard procedural step. This initial interaction serves as their primary assessment tool. The immigration officer isn't merely verifying a travel document. They're conducting a comprehensive evaluation of your demeanor. They observe your movements, note how you present the document, and gauge whether your eye contact remains steady or becomes evasive. Consider this scenario. You frantically search through multiple compartments, dropping various papers while your voice trembles as you stammer, "Oh yes, give me just a moment to find it." In that single instant, your visible anxiety transforms into their professional suspicion. The reality? Border control personnel receive extensive training to identify micro-expressions of uncertainty. Those brief moments of panic often indicate deeper concerns about legitimacy. The strategy isn't about your passport itself, it's about maintaining composure throughout the interaction. Here's the professional approach. Maintain your passport in an immediately accessible location. Never bury it deep within luggage or stuff it into hard-to-reach pockets. When requested, present it smoothly and confidently. Respond with phrases like, "Here you are," or simply, "Certainly." Avoid unnecessary commentary or attempts at humor. Your passport represents more than paper and ink. It's tangible evidence of your right to be in that processing line. Every second you demonstrate calm assurance communicates to the officer that you're dealing with an experienced, prepared traveler. Keep this in mind. Airport environments operate on visual impressions and behavioral cues. The more rapidly you appear to belong in that space, the more quickly those exit doors will open for your departure. Now we move to a question that appears straightforward until it becomes problematic. When an officer inquires about your intended length of stay, they're not simply collecting schedule information. They're carefully evaluating how credible you sound when discussing your travel timeline. Provide excessive detail, and your response begins sounding overly prepared or rehearsed. Offer insufficient information, and you project uncertainty about your own plans. Picture this interaction. You're standing at the immigration desk when they ask about your duration of stay. Your mind immediately starts racing through options. Should you say 2 weeks, maybe 10 days? Should you mention that family wedding? You begin explaining, "Well, I'm planning to stay approximately 2 weeks, unless my friend decides to invite me to visit other places, and then maybe." Suddenly, you've opened the door to additional questioning and scrutiny. Here's what experienced international travelers do instead. Keep responses brief, precise, and unshakable. State clearly, "I'll be staying 10 days or 1 week for vacation purposes." That's the complete answer. No nervous laughter, no unnecessary background information, no additional context. Why does this particular question carry such significance? Every nation maintains detailed records of visitors who exceed their authorized stay periods. It's not a personal judgment, it's systematic pattern recognition. When your response sounds uncertain or vague, you might match the behavioral profile of someone who lacks concrete departure plans. Remember this principle for your next international trip. Confidence always outweighs excessive detail. A calm, specific response demonstrates respect for both their time and your own itinerary. Trust me, they will definitely notice and appreciate this approach. This inquiry can shift from routine to concerning more rapidly than most travelers anticipate. When an immigration officer asks about your visit's purpose, they're not expressing casual curiosity. They're cross-referencing your response against the invisible profile connected to your passport and visa category. Tourism, business, education, these represent the three universally acceptable categories. However, venture beyond these boundaries without crystal clear explanations, and the conversation's tone immediately changes. Imagine responding this way: "I'm just visiting some friends I met online." They lean forward with increased interest. Where exactly do these friends reside? How did you originally meet them? What are their full names and occupations? Suddenly, you're engaged in what feels more like an interrogation than a standard processing procedure. So here's the fundamental rule for success. Maintain precision while staying contained in your explanations. If you're traveling for tourism, say exactly that. "I'm here for vacation purposes." For business travel, say, "I'm attending a professional conference." If pursuing education, explain, "I'm enrolled in an English language program for 1 month." Eliminate unnecessary elaboration and avoid sharing personal stories. Immigration checkpoints aren't venues for lengthy presentations or detailed narratives. Here's the fascinating twist that most travelers never realize. These officers frequently already know your stated purpose before you speak your first word. Through flight pattern analysis, visa type verification, and hotel reservations linked to your ticket purchase, they possess substantial background information. They're simply testing whether your verbal response aligns perfectly with their existing data. Provide clear, consistent answers and they'll process you quickly. Show hesitation or inconsistency, and you might discover what lies behind that discreet door marked secondary inspection. The key is maintaining absolute consistency between your documentation and your verbal responses. But wait, there's something even more telling than your travel purpose. At this point, the officer settles back slightly, carefully observing your response patterns. When they inquire about your occupation, the question sounds conversational, but it represents one of their most quietly revealing assessment tools. Your employment status tells a comprehensive story about stability, reasons for returning home, and financial capacity for international travel. This isn't personal judgment, it's logical profiling based on behavioral patterns. Here's their mental framework. If you maintain steady employment, it signals established roots and compelling reasons to return to your home country. If you are currently a student, you're pursuing education rather than attempting to escape circumstances. If you're unemployed, they'll want to understand how you're financing this trip and what guarantees your return. How should you structure your response? With absolute clarity and calm confidence. State simply, "I'm a high school teacher, I work in digital marketing," or "I'm a university student." Deliver your answer plainly, confidently, and then stop speaking immediately. Avoid over-explaining with responses like, "I just left my previous job, but I'm actively planning to start another position very soon." That type of response opens investigative doors they never asked you to open. Here's a professional tip that can save you significant trouble. If you're currently between positions or recently retired, reframe your situation with clear structure. For example, I recently completed a position in accounting and I'm taking a brief vacation before beginning my next role. This response tells them you're maintaining control of your career path rather than drifting without direction. The truth is, immigration officers don't care about your detailed career history or professional aspirations. They care whether your trip makes logical sense given your circumstances. Maintain a professional tone and steady body language, because at this crucial point, they're deciding whether to trust your entire story or subject it to more intensive testing. The officer's head tilts slightly, their voice remains calm but carries a sharp edge of attention. Are you traveling alone? This appears to be a simple question, but make no mistake about its significance. This isn't polite conversation or small talk. It's a direct test of consistency and truthfulness. You must understand that immigration officers aren't only checking your verbal story. They're cross-referencing every detail with the digital trail that follows your journey. Your flight reservation, seat assignment, even who checked in adjacent to your booking, they already possess this information. They simply want to verify whether you will tell them the identical story. What's the correct approach here? If you're traveling solo, state it clearly and confidently. Yes, I'm traveling alone, then immediately stop talking. If you're not traveling alone, keep your response equally brief and factual. I'm traveling with my sister, or I'm here with a friend. So, no names, no background stories, no casual chatter about where or how you met these travel companions. Here's the secret that separates nervous travelers from experienced ones. The more you explain, the less credible you become. Anxious travelers tend to ramble and over-explain. Seasoned international travelers don't engage in unnecessary elaboration. Imagine yourself as a calm, steady presence, undisturbed and completely natural. Because the truth is, the more natural and unforced you sound, the more rapidly they'll process you through the system. And remember this important fact: airports don't judge anyone for traveling solo or with companions. They're evaluating how certain and consistent you appear about your own story and travel arrangements. Confidence serves as your boarding pass through this entire process. This marks the moment where the conversation's tone often undergoes a noticeable shift. The officer leans forward just slightly, eyes focusing with increased intensity. Not with obvious suspicion, but with heightened curiosity and attention. Do you have any family here? Now, this question sounds friendly, almost conversational in nature. But beneath the surface, it represents one of their most strategically important inquiries. They're carefully measuring your connections to the destination country and assessing how likely you are to remain longer than your visa permits. If your honest answer is negative, maintain clean, polite, and neutral communication. No, I don't. Keep your response simple and stop there immediately. There's absolutely no need to add nervous explanations such as, No, I don't know anyone in this entire country. Just state, no, I don't, and maintain silence. However, if you do have family members in that country, you should expect follow-up questions. They'll want to know who these relatives are, where they live, and how close your relationship is with them. The key principle here is maintaining truthfulness while staying at surface level. Respond with, yes, my cousin lives here, or my sister works in the city. That's the complete extent of information required. You don't owe them your detailed family tree or relationship history. Here's the crucial twist that most travelers miss. The officer isn't really judging the content of your answer. They're evaluating your reaction and behavioral response. If your tone changes noticeably, your eyes begin flickering nervously, or your body language becomes rigid, they immediately sense hesitation or deception. That's precisely when the questions begin multiplying rapidly. So don't overthink this interaction. Don't over-explain or provide unnecessary details. Whether your answer is yes or no, deliver it with a calm, grounded confidence and steady eye contact. Because in immigration interviews, the secret isn't just the words you choose to say. It's how steady and consistent you remain while saying them. This particular question catches many people completely off guard, not because it's particularly tricky or complex, but because it often feels like some kind of trap or test. Have you been to this country before? Is delivered with a neutral, professional smile, but don't allow that casual presentation to fool you about its significance. This question represents a quiet background, verification disguised as friendly conversation. Here's what's actually happening behind the scenes. The officer already possesses complete knowledge of your travel history and record. Your previous visits are logged, documented, and instantly accessible in their computer system. The question is specifically designed to determine whether your memory and honesty match their official records. If this represents your first visit to the country, state it plainly and clearly. No, it's my first time here. Leave your response at exactly that level of detail. But if you have visited before, always provide a clear, specific time frame. Yes, I visited last summer, or I was here 2 years ago for business purposes. That's all the information they require from you. Don't launch into detailed vacation stories or discuss people you met during previous visits. Here's why this question carries such importance in their evaluation. Returning travelers who have previously overstayed their authorized period or violated immigration rules are automatically flagged in the system. So even a casual, seemingly innocent answer gets cross-checked within seconds against official records. And here's the surprising twist. Officers rely on your tone and demeanor more than your actual words to decide if something feels problematic or concerning. If your voice hesitates uncertainly or your eyes shift as you attempt to recall specific dates, that brief moment of doubt can trigger much deeper screening procedures. So treat this question like looking in the mirror. Answer calmly, maintain direct eye contact, and move forward confidently. It's not about your travel history or previous experiences. It's about your composure under quiet professional pressure. Now we arrive at the question that can completely transform your trip in mere seconds. Do you have anything to declare? It sounds bureaucratic, almost mundane in its delivery. But this represents the point where more travelers encounter serious problems than anywhere else in the entire process. Because at this moment, honesty isn't simply recommended, it's absolutely the entire foundation of success. When an officer poses this question, they're not accusing you of smuggling contraband or illegal items. They're testing how thoroughly you understand the regulations and rules. And those rules, they're definitely not identical across different countries and jurisdictions. Perhaps you're carrying expensive jewelry, electronic devices, or prescription medications. Maybe you've packed snacks or dietary supplements that seem completely harmless in your home country, but qualify as restricted imports in your destination. Even carrying several $1,000s in cash can raise immediate red flags if you don't declare it through proper channels. Here's your correct approach. If you truly have nothing requiring declaration, state it calmly and clearly. No, I don't. If you do have items requiring declaration, be completely upfront. Yes, I have some items to declare, and allow them to guide you through the proper process. The twist that most travelers never learn through experience. Customs officers receive intensive training to identify hesitation and deception. One uncertain pause, one downward glance, and suddenly they're marking you for thorough random bag searches and additional screening. And if they discover something undeclared, even through honest mistake, that's when fines, confiscations, and hours of wasted time begin accumulating. So remember this fundamental rule of airport survival. Confidence cannot cover dishonesty or deception. But honesty, spoken calmly and clearly, clears you through the process faster than any excuse or explanation ever will. Stay steady, maintain politeness, and never attempt to play games with customs officials. They always possess the advantage and always win these confrontations. By this point in the process, the author has listened carefully to your complete story. Where you are traveling from, why you are making this trip, how long you plan to stay. But this one determines whether all your previous answers actually add up to a coherent, believable narrative. Where will you be staying? It sounds simple and straightforward, but it functions as a precision test of your preparation. They're looking for certainty and confidence, not vague guesses or uncertain responses. Imagine this scenario unfolding. You respond with, somewhere near the downtown area. I think the hotel's called, And just like that, the entire conversation shifts dramatically. You've transformed from confident, prepared traveler to potential question mark requiring additional scrutiny. Here's the truth about their expectations. They don't expect you to memorize every street address or postal code, but they absolutely expect you to know your own accommodation plans with certainty. So maintain your details in ready, accessible form. So, if you're staying at a hotel, I'll be staying at the Pacific Hotel in Manhattan. If you're staying with family or friends, I'm staying with my cousin in Toronto. There's no need to recite complete street addresses unless they specifically request that level of detail. Just remain clear, calm, and absolutely consistent with previous statements. Here's a hidden tip that most travelers never discover. Immigration computer systems already link your arrival card or electronic visa with your listed accommodation information. They're checking whether your verbal answer matches that official data perfectly. When you respond smoothly and confidently, it signals one crucial thing: control. You know exactly where you're going, and that's all they need to hear from you. Because nothing makes an immigration officer more concerned than encountering a traveler who seems uncertain about their own destination. Plan your accommodation carefully, memorize your response, and you'll walk through that final checkpoint like you absolutely belong there. Because you do belong there. This represents the final checkpoint in your immigration interview. The crucial moment when they make their ultimate decision about whether your trip feels legitimate or raises suspicions. Can I see your return ticket or onward travel documentation? This isn't simply paperwork verification, it's concrete proof that you plan to depart the country as promised. Every nation from the United States to the United Kingdom to Australia uses this question to identify travelers who might overstay their authorized period. If you hesitate at this critical moment, you instantly appear uncertain about your true intentions, and that uncertainty can spiral into serious problems very quickly. So don't get caught fumbling through documents or searching desperately through your belongings. Always maintain your tickets, whether printed or digital, in immediately accessible form for quick presentation. If you have already booked your return flight home, present it confidently. Yes, here's my return ticket. I'm flying out on the 22nd. If you're continuing to another destination, be equally clear and specific. I have an onward flight to Singapore, or I'm traveling to Paris after this stop. The destination itself isn't what matters most. What matters is demonstrating clear structure and definite plans. An officer who observes a traveler with concrete, organized plans sees someone they can trust and process quickly. The twist here, even if you possess a flexible or refundable ticket, is still significantly better to show documentation of some kind. Immigration officials don't care whether you change your plans later. They simply need evidence that you're not planning to disappear into their country permanently. One final crucial point: keep these documents where you can access them within seconds of being asked. Digging through 5 different zippers to locate your phone or printed documentation only signals disorganization, which they immediately interpret as uncertainty about your plans. Show your documentation promptly, smile genuinely, and stay calm throughout the interaction. Because this question represents your final exit ramp, the last test standing between suspicion and smooth entry into the country. And when you pass this test successfully, you've officially crossed that invisible line, separating uncertain visitor from welcomed guest. And just like that, you've successfully navigated the entire process. But here's the secret that nobody ever shares with travelers. Immigration control isn't really about the specific answers you provide to their questions. It's about the energy and confidence you project throughout the entire interaction. From the very second you step up to that immigration counter, they're reading one fundamental thing. Are you in complete control of your story, or are you uncertain and unprepared? Every hesitation, every nervous breath, every rambling explanation sends a clear signal of uncertainty. But calm confidence? That becomes your passport before they even examine your actual passport. You have now seen the 10 questions that quietly shape your international journey and discover the truth hiding beneath each one. These officers aren't trying to trick you or catch you in lies. They're trying to read your behavior and assess your credibility. And once you understand the system completely, you stop feeling like a suspect under investigation and start moving through the process like a seasoned international traveler. So here's your essential checklist before your next international flight. Keep your passport easily accessible at all times. Know your complete story before they ask any questions, and answer every inquiry with short, clear, steady responses. Speak like someone who has done this hundreds of times before. Because when your words sound certain and well prepared, your trip unfolds smoothly and without complications. When your voice stays calm under pressure, your story remains believable and consistent. And when you walk through that final glass gate with quiet confidence, you're already succeeding in the moment before you even reach the baggage claim area. If this comprehensive guide helped you feel more prepared for your travels, don't keep this valuable information to yourself. Share it with others. Someone in your circle will face these exact same questions very soon, and they'll thank you for sending this essential information their way. Hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications for future content. Because in our next episode, we're revealing exactly what really happens when you're randomly selected for secondary screening procedures. It's not what most people think, and it's the video every international traveler should watch before their next flight. Remember, safe travels to everyone. Confidence is your clearance through every checkpoint.